Morning, David. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, gents. Where are we?
Yeah, football's coming home, isn't it?
It could be. It could be. You know what? After the performance against Germany, obviously going into the Ukraine game, we all expect them to beat Ukraine quite comfortably. It's probably just the way they dismantled the Ukrainians. Like for probably 80 minutes, they dominated the game. Ukraine had a period in the first half where they kept the ball well. It kind of looked like they were going to threaten a little bit, but then England, they've just got everything going for them at the moment. There's a feel-good factor. Of course, look, Denmark coming up next, which is a very difficult game for them, but still feel they have probably a little bit too much for Denmark.
A lot of the things that I'm listening to from the English media are talking about the final already, which, in sport has a tendency to bite you in the ass.
It does. But you know what? That's probably the biggest thing over here. Like, obviously, I'm living in England. The whole time they're getting excited. Even after the Scotland game, okay, that was the disappointment, that was the frustration. Get the result then against the Czech Republic. And then obviously the side of the draw opened up itself for England. And ever since then, they've been talking about, the semi-final, final. So I kind of take it with a pinch of salt because they now are in the semis, like even before the last 16. If we beat Germany, then we could play this, winners of Sweden and Ukraine, and then it could be like the winners of the other side, which we now know is Denmark. They've been very excited the whole time, but that's the kind of noise outside of the camp. By all accounts, the noise inside the camp is one game at a time. We're obviously in a strong position. Everything is going well. I've spoken to a few of them. They're looking forward to the Denmark game. Look, they're confident. Clean sheet every round. They're scoring goals. Harry Kane is back scoring. As an Irishman, it's nearly a worry.
I'm disappointed, David. Like last week, you were saying that Denmark are thinking final, and now I can feel you rowing back on this a little bit. Of course, look, I've experienced games against Denmark. I think they're very good, very good squad. They're very good players. Of course, the loss of Christian Eriksen is massive because he's their key man. Their squad is galvanised. It's just now they're coming up against an England team who just seem everything is going in the right direction for them. I'm fascinated by Southgate, even like his approach to the opening game against Croatia, starting Trippier at left back, all the question marks over so many right backs. Everybody was trying to pick the front three. Obviously, you knew Kane was nailed on. There was question marks over Sterling. Like Jack Grealish needs to start. He's gone his own way and he doesn't listen to anyone outside of his coaching staff, the ones he well and truly trusts. Every team he's picked in every game has been right for that game. Even, the whole thing of going up against Germany, if you looked at the uproar once the team was announced of playing three at the back of the five to kind of match Germany up with the wing backs, he's just got everything spot on, and it's, you've got to give him credit. He's got everything correct, and, I won't say it's going to be easy, but I still expect England to beat Denmark. In fairness, since we were last talking to you, those two things have happened. The Germany game has happened and the 4-0 over Ukraine. So, it is a different picture now to the England we were actually talking about last week. Can I just ask you about the midfield options then? Obviously, we might just start with Jordan Henderson. I'm not sure if you've been chatting to him in the aftermath, but 62 goals, 62 games, 1 goal for England. It's finally happened for him.
Oh, no, don't worry. I'll give him plenty of stick. I just said to him, I can't believe it's been that long since you've scored. It's taken you that long to score for England. And then he tried to push it off as a holding midfielder. And I said, don't give me those excuses. Just thinks of it. Because, certainly a lot of the teams England play against, the holding midfielders can't afford to get forward and kind of almost gamble a bit and try and get into the box because they dominate possession and you can kind of afford to be caught out of position once every now and then. Of course, he did miss the penalty not so long ago in the warm-up games. But he's got his goal, massive goal. Obviously, in a quarter-final of a European Championship, it's no better place, I suppose, to get started than there.
I guess when he led Liverpool to the Premier League title and obviously to the Champions League the year previous, he was this totemic leader, but he was always present on the pitch. How much more difficult is it to do that when you're an impact substitute? It's easy for us to say it here, but when you're actually the guy who's maybe not starting every game, I'm sure it's a little bit tricky.
I think with certain players it would be tricky. The personality and the type of person Jordan is, it wouldn't really affect him. Look, he's a great experience of being captain of Liverpool. I think he's brought a lot of that leadership into the England change room, there was obviously question marks over his fitness towards the start, and you could see various different people kind of saying you need type of fella like Jordan around. And I think, like, if you look at all the players, the way they respond to him, like, yes, Harry Kane is captain, Jordan is vice captain, but I see myself that they respect him as a captain, and I think Gareth values that leadership, not only on the pitch, but off the pitch, around the place. Look, I've spoken on several different shows of, you know, the type of character he is. So I think that part is why Gareth was so destined to have him in the squad, regardless if he had played minutes, because you can imagine, you know, off, whether it be around the hotel, his standards would be very high. He'll be dragging fellas along in training. He'll be demanding more. Like, I think we're going back. His first, like, major tournament for England was, you know, Euro 2012. I think Roy Hodgson was manager at the time. Frank Lampard got injured. I remember we were meant to go on holidays, and Jordan got a phone call off the FA saying, like, you need to go. So you're going all the way back to then, and he's played in every major tournament for England. So, like, he has huge experience, and of course the success with Liverpool will only help him. He's been, you know, played in big games, played in big occasions. He's lost the Champions League final. He's won a Champions League final. That experience is vital for, you know, those younger English players. There is a lot of experience in there, but someone who's, you know, obviously been there, done it, experienced highs and experienced lows. And that's vital for a changing room.
I think he also has to be feeling that this team is on the verge of major success, if not right now, then over the next period of time. And you want to stick around, you want to get in the team. If he's fully fit and playing well, he's 100% in that team. Like, that was certainly, that's my perception of it. I don't know if Phillips and Rice have done enough to be considered the number ones after this tournament and forevermore. And I still don't think, I think if Jordan Henderson comes back and plays the way that he has done over the last 3 or 4 years, he's straight back in the side for the World Cup, which is only 18 months away. So that must be one of the other reasons why, as a player, if you're not in the team, you're not throwing your toys out of the pram at the moment. Even, I know he's not likely to under any circumstances, but you can see a future where you have a role to play.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it's the biggest thing there, Gerald, is, like, Phillips and Rice have started the opening game. They beat Croatia. Okay, they had the disappointing result against Scotland, but those two have played every game, and they've done well. And England are, like, look, they're now in a European semi-final. So regardless, look, we could easily dissect each player's performance in every game, and we can highlight, you know, good stuff, bad stuff, things we think they can do better. But inevitably, they've been rock solid. They've, you know, formed a good partnership. You know, there's been massive question marks over Gareth playing the two holding midfielders. Do you need it? And it's proving vital that he does need them, because, look, they've kept so many clean sheets. But I think if you're one of the players and you're looking on from, you know, the bench, whatever, you have to kind of look at your own players. And, you know, Jordan be looking at two midfielders going, you know, they've done well. They've been very important to the team, and you have to respect that. But no doubt, him coming in off a 3-month injury, not have gotten as much game time as he'd have liked, it's going to take him, you know, 2-3 weeks to get to full match speed. And that's kind of now, obviously he came on the other day, played a large chunk of that. But it will, for him, if he wants to push for the starting place, it's going to be towards the back end of the tournament, really, isn't it? Or not the back end, sorry, back end of the year.
Can we talk a little bit about Jadon Sancho, who was a slightly unexpected starter in the game, and then I thought he played really well. I heard some people criticise his defensive mindset, as in when out of possession he doesn't do as much as some of the other players in that England team. But, like, I thought you can see all of the skills that are right there, and his ability to knit the play together, hugely important in any side. So what did you make of his performance, and how well do you think he'll do for Manchester United?
I think first and foremost, I think he'll do really well for Manchester United. He's a traditional right winger. He wants to, you know, attack a player down a fullback down the end line. He wants to get crosses in. He wants to come inside the pitch and get involved. Of course, you can highlight his defensive duties. Did he do enough to come back? But you can only judge him off, you know, the opposition he's playing against. Ukraine never really looked like they were going to, you know, pin England back or whatever. So like a player like Sancho or a Sterling on the other side can afford to stay that bit forward and not defend as much, because they're looking at, you know, we've got the defenders, we've got the whole midfielders. If we win the ball back, I want to be in a high enough position where I can start a counter-attack. I thought he performed really well. It's very interesting. Like, you had, obviously there was a lot of question marks raised. Why isn't he playing? Even we went into the Germany game, there was a lot of the German press and media ex-professionals who'd said, like, why isn't Sancho playing in this 11? Maybe Gareth had kind of kept him up because he knew what was going on in the background with this move to Manchester United. Maybe that was a small little factor, because obviously then once that is kind of looks like it's done, then he brings him straight in. But I thought he did really well. It'll be interesting to see now. Like that's the hardest thing, is what team is Gareth going to play against Denmark? You know, Saka had obviously done really well in the games he had played in. Sancho's come in, he's done well. Kind of like what way does he go now? Which players does he pick? Obviously Grealish didn't come on the other day, who was excellent against Germany. It's almost frustrating to, you know, go through it and talk to you about it, because the squad depth they have and the quality they have is unbelievable. That, you know, you could, like, you've got Luke Shaw, you've got Ben Chilwell left back, you've got, you know, Kieran Trippier, Kyle Walker, Reece James at full back. Like, okay, the two centre halves pick themselves. You have Rice and Phillips playing, where you could afford to bring in like Jordan Henderson, who's a Premier League and Champions League winner. You've got this young 18-year-old Jude Bellingham, who looks exceptional, who looks like he's going to be like the pivot of England's midfield for the next, you know, 10 or 12 years once he comes of age. And then I don't even know where to start with the, you know, the front three. Like, you've got Mount, who comes back in, but then you've got Saka, Sancho, Phil Foden, who there was huge talk about before the tournament. Like, he's not featured in the last few games. It's just ridiculous.
The one thing there, David, that you didn't mention is centre forward. And I know Dominic Calvert-Lewin had an amazing season, but Kane's importance has almost gone to another level now, because he's played himself into form. And maybe his importance was even greater when he wasn't in form, because we saw what happens to England when he isn't great. Like, he does seem to be like the one player in a position, and it comes with being the captain as well, that you think to yourself, if he drops off again, then England might suffer, or anything else like that.
Yeah, look, that's obviously a thing. Harry is disappointing in the opening games. I think he'd be the first to admit that. But like you said, he's played himself into the tournament. But it's amazing the trust that Gareth has in him. I even said before this, after the Scotland game, maybe they should take him out of the Czech Republic game and just give him a rest. Like, they were always going to get through to the group stage, or through the group stage to get into the last 16. So then he would come of age, whoever they played then. But he is probably the only nailed-on world-class player England have. I don't think there's any getting away from that. You know, you could obviously raise question marks over a few of the other players, but Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. There's no doubt in that. And I think Gareth appreciates what he does. Like, he stuck with them. He gets his goal against Germany, and then obviously he gets the 2 goals the other day. Like, how crazy is it that, okay, Schick and Ronaldo won 5 goals, but you could quite easily see Kane getting another double, you know, against Denmark or whatever. Like, for someone who is looked off the pace, looked sluggish in the opening games, that now he's coming of form and he's really, you know, hitting the ground running, and he looks the player that we know he can be.
How much technically better are England than Denmark?
Technique is an interesting word to use to describe them. I just think I would look at it probably as the way England have a lot more match winners. You look at the front three, or the players who haven't played, they have match winners in that squad. And like, obviously it's a huge disappointment for Denmark. They don't have Denmark, who is that excellent player. Denmark seem to have a great togetherness. They have very good players, don't get me wrong, but there's like, they all pull together and they kind of grind out results time after time. If you looked at, like, you know, the goal that Dolberg got the other day of, you know, the interlink passing, get down the wing, and then Meyler crosses it in. They just have a very good balance, very good players who are, look, of course, are playing across the, you know, the top leagues in Europe, but I just feel England have more probably star-studded quality in the terms of, like, you've got a match winner in Sterling, you've got a match winner in Kane, you've got a match winner in Mount, Foden, Saka, you know, Grealish, the list goes on. So I think that's probably what separates them. It's just now about England. Can they deal with the, you know, the atmosphere, you know, going back to Wembley? I thought it was very interesting listening to Gareth speak about, like, he was actually excited that they were leaving Wembley after the Germany game to go to Rome for the Ukrainian game, just because he said the atmosphere won't live up. It can't be as good as it was at Germany. So it's nice for us to take a step out. Obviously, get the results on, so they go back. So now there's a massive feel-good factor for England. Look, you're not going to get a better opportunity playing at home at Wembley against Denmark, a team that you should beat. You know, Denmark, they beat them in the Nations League. But simple fact is, like, everything is kind of pulling in their direction.
If England win then, who don't they want to see on the other side of the draw?
I simply said I expect England to win. I think they don't want to play Italy. I think if they played Spain, they'd beat Spain. It's just something. Now I know I tipped Italy from the start. George's probably smiling away there, thinking to get him on singing. But it's just something about the Italians. Like certainly the way look, we all tweet about it, we all talk about it. The way they celebrate blocks or tackles or giving up a corner to stop like a counter-attack, and it's just something special about the Italian group. It's probably the first major tournament in, the best part of 30 years where they've not had an outright number 10, whether it be Roberto Baggio, Del Piero, Totti. People will be quick to say at the start of the tournament they're missing that kind of creative spark, but they've just got something good going on. Now, obviously, they've got a deal. Spinazzola's out, I believe, for 5 to 6 months after snapping his Achilles. That's a huge loss because his partnership with Insigne is crucial because he overlaps and can get involved in attacks. And Insigne can come inside like we've seen with the goal against Belgium. But he creates that width. What Mancini's going to do with that, I don't know. But if Italy play England, Italy are the masters of, the dark arts and defending, can you imagine like Cellini and Bonucci will be kicking lumps out of Harry Kane when the ball's up the other end of the pitch. Like they're brilliant at it. And I love watching them play.
Yeah, it's a performance art really, isn't it? The shithousery. Like those last 15 minutes on Friday night. It's just beautiful, David. Yeah,
it is. And, I get it. People are moaning. Like the prime example is Immobile. The goal for Barella's goal, like he's rolling around on the floor crying, I've been kicked, and then they score and he jumps up. Like they're just, look, it's part and parcel of football, and they are the masters of it. Everything for Verratti with his little, he picked up a yellow card after about 10 minutes. I was sitting there watching the game, screaming at the telly going, will you relax and stop trying to tackle people? But he's sliding. They just have a way of, they get up and they kind of like, sorry ref, and they just get away with so much. Like you said, they're the masters of it.
Who's the best midfielder in that Italian team?
Oh, Verratti, every day of the week.
But in the context of this tournament, even, like I suppose considering he came in late, is he still the guy after the late arrival as such that is still standing out for you?
Well, in this tournament, I'd probably lean towards Jorginho for the Italian side. Look, we've seen it with Chelsea, the way he is very one pace, but it's about the control that he brings in, his distribution of his passing, getting on the ball, getting the ball off the back four, knocking it wide, getting it back. He can take the sting out of a game. I think he's crucial for the way Italy play. Now, you've got to give a mention to Barella, who scored the other night, Locatelli, who came in, who's got a couple of goals. We've just got a great mix and blend of different players. But like, if you were to hang your hat on one of them, like Verratti is special. Like I'm in awe of watching him. Like I remember years ago, I played against Italy in Craven Cottage, and I remember Martin O'Neill was screaming at me to press him because he was, the centre halves had split and he was getting the ball off the goalkeeper, and he took it on the back foot and he shaped me up, and he came dribbling at me, and I was there thinking like, not many holding midfielders I played against in my career would have the audacity to take the ball off the goalkeeper. Like if I had one possession off him, I'm inevitably through one-on-one. Yes, the two centre halves will be scrambling back to get me. He just did two step overs and dropped the shoulder and went past me. And I was thinking like, wow, like the ball's on you to even attempt that. And it's just the way he plays and the confidence. And he's an exceptional midfielder.
And I hope you turned around and kicked him up the hole, did you?
I had a cut off him about 15 minutes later. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah.
No. And still he probably did it again.
Yeah, but that's the beauty. That's what the best players do. They just go and go again. Nothing phases them. They don't shirk the challenge of going, getting on the ball. Like that's their job, is kind of, to be the one that everything goes through, whether you're starting an attack or if you're, lost the ball and you're transitioning into defend. You need to be able to, do whatever. And Verratti has all of that.
Just to, like, we'll talk about Spain again in a second, but the Belgians have once again failed to live up to their talent and the hype and just that sense that this is a team that needs to win a tournament to frank its greatness, and they haven't done it. So have they underachieved? Is there something about Roberto Martinez that just is stopping them reaching what they're capable of? Or is it, again, in a tournament, you need a bit of luck, and De Bruyne really was carrying an injury and was not his full self. Hazard didn't make it, and they don't have the luck that other teams have had.
You do need a certain amount of luck. Like Belgium, there's no way you can say that it's not been a disappointment, because the array of talent they have, Lukaku fresh off the season he's had, De Bruyne, Hazard, like even, you know, the massive question marks I've always had about the Belgians is their back three. You know, Vermaelen, Vertonghen, Alderweireld. It doesn't exactly, but they are very good players. I'm not for a second saying they're not, but it doesn't scream confidence as like I'd have more confidence in Maguire, Stones, Walker and Shaw. I'd have more in, you know, Bonucci, Cellini, Spinazzola, that, you know, those, there's just more to them. Like we've seen that. Okay, Vertonghen and Alderweireld had a fantastic year a few years ago. Do you remember when Tottenham kept so many clean sheets and they had this massive partnership, but that faded off. And then Vermaelen, who's been, you know, was very good for Arsenal once upon a time, but he's been struck with injuries, and kind of even the whole thing of Witsel, like it's remarkable what Witsel has done to consider he was out for such a large period of time and missed so much football to kind of come back in. You know, he didn't play in the opening games, but to come back in the, you know, the next few games, just very difficult. And they're really relying on the firepower up front to kind of get them through. And like you said there, De Bruyne, he's got an ankle ligament injury and he's playing in the game. And like even him coming out after, like that's where Martinez needs to be big enough and bold enough to go, look, Kevin, I would love you to play. You get into any team in the world, but it's probably best we give you the last 20, 25 minutes.
Yeah.
Try and make a quick impact as opposed to playing the full game. Certainly against an Italian team who will be kicking you, biting you and doing all sorts to you just to upset the rhythm of the Belgian team. But on the open, that game was very open. There were chances for Belgium, but it's another tournament, like you said, that's gone by in this golden generation and failed again.
What about Spain? Are we underrating Spain because they come through on penalties against a side that was unfancied? Or, like, you know, the history is littered with tournament winners who get a narrow escape after horrific penalty shootouts?
I did write Spain off. I was on with JD on Saturday a few weeks ago and I said, like, I don't think Spain will win it. I still think Italy will beat Spain. I might be wrong. I might be eating my words this time next week. But I just feel that there's something missing with Spain. I don't know what it is. Like, they can dominate possession. All right, look, on the last game, they were disappointed. In the previous two games, they'd scored a load of goals. They'd 5 in both, or albeit one was in extra time. But it's just, I don't know what it is. Like, can you imagine the Italians, the way they play? Like, I've mentioned the centre-halves enough this morning, but they played with Morata at Juventus. Like, they'll know exactly how to deal with him. There's almost a soft touch with the Spanish squad. You know, they do dictate possession. They do try and control a game. But there's a lot of likability about the Italians going forward and whatever. So I think they'll cause Spain problems. And then it's whether or not Spain can deal with it. I think it was the Croatia game with Spain. It was just a prime example of Spain were comfortable, you know, knocking the ball around. This is nice and easy. And then, you know, Croatia's kind of went, you know what? Let's just go and try and bully them. Let's just hit long balls up, get round, you know, the players. Like, there was some crazy stat. Laporte won 1 out of 30 of his aerial challenges. He just kind of got bullied, and it only went to the winning extra time. That, imagine somebody might have been, you know, Luis Enrique or Busquets kind of said, everyone slow down, let's go back to doing what we know, and, you know, have balls to almost take the football and kind of keep playing, which they did, and that's where they got through the tie. But I think the Italian team will know that. They'll go after them and they'll try and bully them. Certainly with the way the Italians press, they try and press for large amounts of each half, which is like unbelievable. You think of the amount of games some of these players have played, but they go after teams, and I think they'll go after Spain. They'll just have too much for them. All
right. I hope you're doing your vocal exercises. It's difficult to
well, I'm tipping Italy and England.
It's still on.
And then whether or not England, it's either coming home or it's time to say goodbye. But we'll see.
Oh, I can't wait. David, good stuff. Thanks a million. Cheers.
Cheers.